Today, we are taking on a massive story. We're going to trace 5,000 years of history, following a civilization that has profoundly shaped our world from its ancient soul all the way to its modern beating heart. So, let's dive right in.
Everything really begins with this powerful idea that India is one of the world's oldest living civilizations. Think about that for a second. This isn't just a country we're talking about. It's a continuous story, a thread stretching all the way back to the dawn of history. It's a place where the ancient and the modern live side by side in a way you just don't see anywhere else.
So to really understand the India of today, we have to go back, way back. We're starting at the very beginning, in the cradle of civilization, to explore its ancient soul.
Okay, so picture this. More than 4,000 years ago, while large parts of the world were still nomadic, right here, there were these massive, thriving cities. The Indus Valley civilization was an absolute marvel of engineering. I mean, we're talking grid-patterned streets, advanced water management systems, and a vast trading network. It was incredibly sophisticated.
And these ancient innovations, they literally still shape our lives today. The concept of zero, or shunya, what a revolution. It made everything from basic algebra to modern computing possible. Then you have Ayurveda, this holistic approach to medicine that's thousands of years old. And the great universities, like Nalanda and Takshashila, they were legendary centers of learning, almost like magnets, pulling in scholars from all across Asia.
So, from these incredible intellectual foundations, something else began to rise: mighty empires. Each one left its own indelible mark on the subcontinent, and, on the world. This was truly the Age of Empires.
This timeline is basically our roadmap. It shows you these incredible waves of unification under different rulers, from the Mauryans all the way to the Mughals. Then you see the colonial era creep in, and finally the birth of the modern republic. Each one of these points is a huge chapter in this grand story.
So, the Mauryan Empire, their big claim to fame was unification. For the very first time, they brought much of this vast, incredibly diverse land under a single rule. And Emperor Ashoka's reign was just transformative, not because of conquest, but because he shifted to spreading a philosophy of peace and compassion far, far beyond India's borders.
After the Mauryans, we hit what's often called the Golden Age. And honestly, that's not an exaggeration. The Gupta Empire was this amazing period of stability and prosperity that just fueled an explosion of knowledge. This was the era of legendary poets and brilliant astronomers who were accurately calculating the length of the solar year. Just incredible stuff.
And then came the Mughals. They, once again, unified huge parts of the subcontinent, creating a really sophisticated administrative system and, well, of course, giving the world some of its most breathtaking architecture. Ever heard of the Taj Mahal? Their influence on art, food, and culture is something you can still feel so profoundly today.
But as the Mughal Empire started to weaken, a new power showed up, sailing in from across the seas. And this next chapter, it's a darker one. It's a period of domination, of exploitation, and a long, hard struggle for the nation's very soul.
This is it. This is the moment everything changed. The Battle of Plassey wasn't some huge, epic military clash, but its outcome was absolutely monumental. It allowed what was essentially a private company, the British East India Company, to become the de facto ruler of a vast territory. And from that one single foothold, British control just expanded and expanded. It was relentless. What began as a corporate takeover slowly morphed into direct colonial rule by the British Crown, the British Raj, which would go on to govern India for nearly 2 centuries.
But domination always breeds resistance. All across the country, a sense of a shared identity and a deep desire for freedom began to bubble up and grow. This wasn't just some political movement, it was a mass awakening. It was the beginning of one of history's greatest struggles for independence.
And that struggle, it would lead to the nation's rebirth. This is the story of how India threw off the shackles of empire to forge its very own new destiny.
And this is what made India's freedom movement so unique, so historic. Led by Mahatma Gandhi, it wasn't fought with guns and swords. It was fought with ideas. It was a massive movement built on the principle of ahimsa, nonviolence, and civil disobedience. Millions of ordinary people joined this incredible moral and political fight for their own self-rule.
After decades of struggle and immense, unimaginable sacrifice, the day finally came. On August 15, 1947, the British Raj came to an end, and a new nation was finally born. And this right here perfectly captures the complicated truth of that moment. On the one hand, there was this incredible joy and hope, but on the other, there was profound tragedy. The pain of partition divided the subcontinent, sparking one of the largest and most violent mass migrations in all of human history. Freedom came, but it came at a staggering cost.
Just a few years later, India took its final, crucial step into modern nationhood. It adopted one of the world's longest and most detailed constitutions, officially becoming a sovereign, democratic republic. It was cementing the very values it had fought so hard for.
All right, so that brings us to the present day. Now let's see how this ancient nation forged a truly modern heart and took its place on the global stage.
Independent India faced just enormous challenges, but it completely transformed its destiny through a few key strategic moves. First, the Green Revolution made sure it could feed its own people. Then, the 1991 economic reforms opened the doors to the world, and now, the digital revolution has positioned it as a global leader in tech and innovation.
And the scale of it all, it's just mind-boggling. Today, India is home to over 1.4 billion people. That makes it not just the most populous country on the planet, but also, and this is so crucial, the world's largest democracy. This chart really puts India's economic muscle into perspective. It's projected to be the world's fourth largest economy by nominal GDP and the third largest when you look at purchasing power. That is an absolutely incredible economic ascent.
And the achievements just keep rolling in. I mean, we're talking about landing a spacecraft on the south pole of the moon, creating a digital payment system, UPI, that is literally the envy of the world. It's a global hub for startups, and it's become a critical supplier of affordable medicine, truly the pharmacy of the world.
So, we've journeyed through a civilization that gave the world foundational ideas, that built magnificent empires, that endured colonialism and rose from it all to become a modern global power. It all leaves us with one final, fascinating question. Drawing on all that ancient wisdom and fueled by so much modern ambition, what on earth will India's next chapter be?